If you ever see that house, do not approach it. Leave the village and do not look back. In the village, the tale was always told in a lowered voice, as if speaking the house's name was enough to crack a window in the dark. An old building at the edge of the fields, leaning against the forest like someone exhausted and waiting to fall, except it never fell. Its roof sagged. Its windows stayed unlit even at noon. The path leading to it belonged to the wind, and to nothing else. Not even dogs would go near. They called it the Edge House, because it sat on the edge of the village and on the edge of the mind. Mariam was in her first year of university, her legs faster than her fear. She didn't believe what people said, and she hated the phrase, "the elders know best," more than anything. Her grandmother, Saber, would see her heading toward the forest and warn her, "Don't you dare, girl. That house isn't a house. It's a mouth." Mariam would laugh. "A mouth? It doesn't even have a proper door." Her grandmother's voice would crack. "It's the one that opens." On a day when clouds hung heavy and the wind toyed with the wheat, Mariam heard a faint sound coming from the house, like chains being dragged, like a chair scraping stone. She had one reason to go. Her friend Sarah had vanished 2 days ago. The last message Sarah sent was short. "I'm going to the Edge House. I'll prove you're all cowards." Then nothing. Mariam put on a light jacket, grabbed a small flashlight, and went alone. With every step, she heard another step behind her. Yet whenever she turned, there was no one. "An echo," she told herself. But echoes don't say your name. When she reached the house, the air thickened. The forest trees stood like a row of silent spectators. The moon hadn't risen, but the darkness was already ready. The house looked bigger up close, not truly bigger, but heavier, as if it expanded inside perception. The door was ajar. Ajar was worse than open. Open was an invitation. Ajar was a trap. Mariam placed her hand on the wood. Instead of old roughness, she felt a faint warmth, like skin. She jerked her hand back and forced a laugh. "I'm imagining things." In the same moment, the door shifted by itself, just enough to say, "Come in." She stepped inside. The smell was wet earth, salt, and something else. Something like a long breath held too long. The floorboards groaned beneath her feet as if complaining. The flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing a long corridor. On the walls were pale rectangles where pictures used to hang, darker shadows left behind like memories refusing to leave. "Sarah," she called. The answer wasn't a voice. It was a movement of air, as if something passed close to her ear. Then a whisper. "Mariam." Not from ahead, from inside her skull. She flinched. "Who's there?" No reply. But the beam trembled, and on the floor appeared a fresh, muddy footprint, bare. She followed the prints to a door on the right. It was shut. Scratches marked the wood from the inside, as if fingernails had clawed at it. Mariam pressed her ear to the door. A faint sound. Breathing. Slow. Close. "Sarah, if that's you, The breathing stopped. The silence was louder than any scream. She reached for the knob. It was cold enough to hurt. She twisted. The door didn't open, but from the thin gap beneath it, darkness seeped out. Darkness that moved like liquid. It slid onto the floor, then paused, as if it could smell her. Behind her, from the corridor, tap, tap, tap. Slow, regular footsteps, like a clock. She spun around. The corridor was empty, yet the steps drew nearer, closer, until they were beside her, though no one stood there. The flashlight died. The dark swallowed everything. Mariam clicked it again and again. Nothing. Then she felt a cold hand touch the back of her neck. Not a touch, but a measuring, counting her pulse. She froze, tried to scream. Her voice choked, and the whisper returned. "You came alone, just like we hoped you would." A faint glow appeared at the end of the corridor. A candle flame. The candle was moving on its own, until it stopped before her, as if someone held it, but... Mariam stepped closer. Sarah stood with her eyes open. but her gaze was empty. Her lips moved without sound. Mariam read them. "Don't listen. Don't open." Before Mariam could speak, the candle went out. In the black, Sarah smiled. A smile that wasn't hers. In a rougher voice, she said, "Too late." The floorboards screamed, literally, wood splitting like a throat opening, and the ground yawned beneath Mariam like a mouth. She fell, the flashlight falling with her. In the brief angle of her drop, she saw the ceiling above closing slowly. Like an eyelid, she fell into a darkness deeper than night. And between falling and falling, she heard her grandmother again. "That house is a mouth." Only now she understood it didn't swallow people all at once. It chewed them, slowly, so they stayed awake. And just before she hit the unseen bottom, she heard a soft voice in her ear, her own voice saying, "Don't. This isn't a house. It's what writes fear inside you." After Mariam and Sarah vanished, the village wore a heavy silence. The police came, walked around, asked questions, then left the way they arrived, empty-handed. People said, the forest swallowed them. But the forest was only the curtain. Behind it, the house. The mayor brought a sheikh. The sheikh brought recited water, poured it before the house, and the water did something wrong. It didn't run. It pooled into a circle, and then vanished, as if the earth drank it in one gulp. Mayor Hussein was a man of ledgers and numbers. He said, "I won't let this house eat our children." Without telling anyone, he wrote in an old leather notebook, "I'm going to the Edge house. If I don't return, the rumors were true." At midnight, he walked with a flashlight and an old hunting rifle, not to kill anything, but to feel something solid in his hands. When he reached the house, the door was fully open, like it was breathing. He stepped inside. Strangely, the inside was wider than the outside in a way that insulted logic. Corridors stretched longer. The ceiling rose higher. The air turned colder, as if the interior didn't belong to the land outside. He opened his notebook and wrote as he walked. "The hallway is long. The walls have marks like fingers. I hear dripping, like water, but the roof isn't leaking." The moment he wrote the word dripping, a drop fell near his boot. He looked down, a black bead. He raised the light. The ceiling was dripping darkness. He entered a wide room with a large wooden table. On it lay another notebook. Same leather, same smell. He opened it and felt the pages were warm, as if they came from beneath skin. On the first page, in clear handwriting, "Mayor Hussein, you're late." He stepped back. Who wrote this? Another page turned by itself. A new line formed before his eyes, ink blooming like a wound. "You think you're writing what happens, but the house is writing you." He slammed it shut and opened his own notebook. His blood chilled. What he'd written earlier was there, but not in his handwriting. And between his lines, a sentence he never wrote. "I came looking for Mariam and Sarah, and I am afraid." Hussein had never written the word afraid in his life. He swung the flashlight toward a mirror on the wall that hadn't been there before. Old glass, clouded. He leaned in and saw his reflection, but the reflection lagged by a fraction of a second. Then, it smiled on its own. He stumbled back and hit something, turned. The corridor behind him had changed. Not the same corridor, and the door he entered through was gone. The dripping became steady. Drop, drop, drop. Darkness fell into small puddles, each shining faintly like an eye. With every drop, the house took a step closer, not physically, but in sensation, in the distance between it and his mind. He tried to run, but the floor turned sticky, like mud, swallowing his boots. As he struggled, voices rose from far away. Two girls whispering, "We're here. We're here." Mariam's voice, Sarah's voice, but it came from every direction, as if the house had become a single enormous throat. He found stairs going down. If there's hope, he told himself, it's below. He descended. Each step behind him faded, as if the staircase was being eaten. At the bottom was a vast cellar lined with shelves, dozens, hundreds of notebooks, thousands of pages. In the center, one chair, a figure seated back to the door. Hussein rasped, "Who are you?" The figure didn't move. Above it dangled a chain with the edge house key at the end, gleaming like bait. He reached for it. The instant his fingers touched metal, he heard a click, like a lock opening. But it wasn't a door that opened. It was a mouth, a vast inhale, a laugh, and a whisper. "Good. Now we can go outside." The chair turned slowly, and the face was Hussein's, not the man he knew. Eyes fully black, grin identical to the mirror's. It said, "You're the mayor. People believe you. Write to them. Write that the house is nothing. Write that it's imagination. So when they come calm." Hussein tried to scream, but only a whisper left him. He looked at his own notebook. The last page was writing itself. "I will return to the village and tell them it's fine, and I am not me." A drop of darkness fell and wiped out his name. From that moment, the house no longer needed people to come to it. It could send one back, to deliver the whole village, word by word, notebook by notebook. The village thought the mayor had returned. He walked normally, greeted people, smiled a small measured smile. He said, "The house is empty. Superstition. Anyone who disappears just gets lost in the forest." And people, out of fear, wanted to believe him. Belief was a painkiller. But that same week, small things began to happen. Things you felt more than you saw. First came the knocking. Every night, someone heard a gentle tap at the window. They opened it. Nothing. Yet on the doorstep sat a single dark droplet, like the dripping darkness rumored inside the edge house. It wasn't just a stain. It carried a smell. Wet soil, salt, and a long breath held too long. Each day the droplet multiplied. Stain, puddle, thin vein-like lines crawling across tiles toward other homes. Then came the dreams. Many villagers began sharing the same dream with identical details, as if they were all watching one broadcast. The edge house door ajar, a voice saying, "You don't have to come. We're coming." At the end of the dream, each person woke to the sound of a real drop falling, despite a dry ceiling. The worst was forgetting. Names slipped away. Neighbors of 10 years stared at each other like strangers. Children looked into mirrors as if meeting their own faces for the first time. The village began to feel like a guest inside itself. Saber, the grandmother, was the only one who didn't trust the mayor. Not just wisdom. She smelled the edge house on him, in his clothes, his breath, his too small smile that never reached his eyes. She whispered, "Did you come back, or did they send you?" For a flicker of a moment he paused, as if something inside him searched for an acceptable response. Then he said, "People need to calm down." She answered, voice low and deadly, "And the house needs to sleep inside them." On a winter night, rain fell lightly like salt on a wound. The power cut out all at once. Darkness dropped like a heavy blanket. Then every home heard it. Drop, 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 as if every ceiling had begun to leak. Yet the sound didn't feel above. It felt beside you, like the darkness itself was walking and making the sound. Saber opened her door. The street was slick with black stains. Not water, but a dark liquid. And slowly, the puddles drifted together toward the far end of the road, gathering into a shape. A house. From the end of the street, something advanced. Not a person. Not an animal. A house-shaped shadow. A whole house. Walking. The worst part was that it didn't walk on the ground. It walked on the distance between people and their fear. Every swallowed breath pulled it closer. Villagers stepped outside as if sleepwalking. The mayor stood among them, calming them. "Don't be afraid. It's fog." But fog doesn't make wood groan. Fog doesn't make the earth tremble. Fog doesn't teach doors to move with intent. The shadow drew near, and the village realized the edge house wasn't far away. It stood at the entrance to their main street, as if it had moved, as if it had been practicing. When it stopped, every door in the village cracked open in imitation. Someone whispered, "Are we dreaming?" Another answered, "If it's a dream, why is the cold real?" Then the mayor's voice changed, deeper, calmer. "It won't take you by force." He looked at them with fully black eyes. "It will only make you choose, after it shows you what's inside you." Dark fissures spread beneath their feet like veins, branching toward every home. They reached Saber's doorstep. "No," she screamed. "It wants what's left of my bloodline." She ran inside, opened an old box under her bed, and pulled out a rusted iron spike carved with ancient marks. Beside it lay a yellowed note in her grandfather's handwriting. "If the house walks, the homes are next." And beneath it, "Shut the mouth before it teaches others to bite." She returned to the street. "This isn't a place," she told them. "It's a thing. If you let it walk, every home becomes a mouth." She approached the shadow door, darkness thick as breathing cloth, raised the spike, and hammered it in. The first strike echoed through the forest. Trees shuddered. The air screamed. The shadow jolted, then opened wider, as if pain made it decide to bite. From within came many sounds at once: laughter, sobbing, whispering, shrieking, each one resembling a voice from the village, as if the house had been collecting them for years, and now returned them. The spike stuck, half swallowed. The shadow pulled inward. Saber pulled outward, and inside the darkness, faces flickered like bait. Mariam, soaked, terrified, mouthing, "Close it, close it." Sarah, smiling the wrong smile. Then the real mayor, screaming without sound, as if his voice had been stolen. The villagers froze. Saber shouted, "Don't believe what it shows you. It uses what you love to open you." But it was too late. The first ordinary house on the street opened its door on its own. A droplet of darkness came out, then a puddle, then a corridor. Not a corridor inside the home, a corridor spilling out of it, like an extension of the edge house. A man leaned forward. The corridor whispered his name, sticky, intimate, wrong. He stepped once, and vanished, as if pulled between one moment and the next. Then the village understood. The edge house didn't need to swallow them one by one. It would make their houses swallow them. Saber dropped to her knees and hammered harder. "If you're a mouth," she sobbed, "I'll shut your teeth." Strike, strike, strike. Each blow cost her breath. Each blow made the shadow tremble smaller, just for a heartbeat. The wrong mayor approached. "You think you're closing a door?" he whispered. "You're closing the story." Saber met his eyes. "Then I'll write an ending," she said, "even if it's my last breath." Her final strike didn't sound like iron and wood. It sounded like a lock snapping shut inside the mind. The shadow screamed, and for the first time, the village heard a house scream. Then everything went silent. The power returned. The rain stopped. The street dried as if nothing had happened. Someone asked, "Is it over?" Saber stared toward the forest because she saw what no one else did. The spike in her hand felt warm, like skin. And on it, a dark droplet was growing, slowly, like something being raised. The next night, she dreamed of an ajar door and a whisper. "Good, you closed the big door." A pause, then, "But now, open the small one, inside you." And the worst part? She woke to the sound of a drop falling, not from the ceiling, but from the direction of her mirror.